Hey, welcome to Spark Farming. This is episode 0 of our brand new podcast. I'm John Beck,
I'm Christopher Pollock.
and we're going to take you on a tour of the process of even creating this podcast. So we have a couple of ideas in our heads that we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks of what we'd like to do for this podcast, about the process of ideation, and refining ideas and getting them to the point where you can actually produce something, and staying productive and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to actually do some planning live, and see what comes of it.
Well, the first thing that we're doing is this is a Google Hangout, and so we're doing the video here, but we're also looking at sharing our screen so that while John and I are hundreds of miles away from each other, we want to be able to actively be able to share something. And while we don't have a whiteboard between us, we did some research and we found this one website, Real-Time Board, where we both create accounts and we have a shared board. And what we're going to do now is we're going to switch to this board and we'll be able to update that while we're working, hopefully.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my window then, and we'll try it from this end.
All right, so we'll try it from your end. So while you're still seeing
and
video,
I'm locking it on. I've locked it on you, or I should say me. It says you on the screen, but that would be me.
So you have it locked on that whiteboard.
Yep.
Which is another web browser page, and you're seeing if you were to switch video to me, you'd just see me talking.
Yeah. Now, if I unselect, my video feed, it would then automatically switch back so we could see you when you talked.
Okay.
So we have to kind of decide what we want out of that. But I'm going to lock it back on the on our whiteboard here at realtimeboard.com, and I have to say some of the features that I like. As you can see, Topher is already creating a sticky note or a post-it. I think they say post-it on there, but I don't think we can legally say post-it.
It's called a sticker.
So Topher, why do you feel sticky notes are better?
It's a way of making a game out of thinking. So if you and I were in a room or just doing a voice conversation, we could talk back and forth. We may even have an outline in between each other, but it's very hard, I find, for some folks who may not think abstractly with words, to visualize what's being talked about. And it's very easy to get derailed or go in other directions. So what sticky notes or index cards allow you to do is basically represent in the real world these ideas that are flipping around. So by having these game pieces or artifacts or just details, we can put information out there and then rearrange it. Just like we would rearrange our blocks when we were a kid or toys, we can actually use these as tools to represent things.
Yeah, and I love the ability to pile stuff on top of each other, like I just did. So it really creates, if you do a brainstorming session and you all start filling out sticky notes, it really gives you the ability to pile things together that are like duplicates and stuff like that, and you actually get a visual representation of how popular an idea is. I'm just going to readjust here. The one thing that I'm not particularly caring for about this in the about realtimeboard.com is the idea. They have a specific tool for panning around, so it's kind of a bit of a pain in the ass to move this and get it to where we want it to be. We'll have to kind of constantly be adjusting. But I'm just noticing as we're doing this, Topher. I think the ideal situation, which we can try next time we do this, is for me to log in with another account into the Hangout and do the with muted audio, and do the desktop streaming from there. That way, we can easily flip between locking on the board and having our conversation go back and forth.
Oh, so rather than having us do a screen share, having a third anonymous user.
Right, and because then I can even, I mean, it could be a screen share. It's fine, or however I do that. But the beauty of having a separate user is I can lock it into that user, and our conversation won't interrupt the visual of the board, or I can unlock it, and then you and I will be talking back and forth. And that is a quick one-button, easy way to switch between conversation mode and visual whiteboard mode.
Okay. Oh, that sounds good.
All right, so we've got what should we start with today then? You've got a couple of ideas. We've got SparkFarming. We definitely have a Google Hangout. These are our the things that we need to use, and we are.
Yeah, we haven't defined what we were. I just put the word out there for a demonstration of this, but we are using a Google Hangout to live stream to YouTube. We are using real-time board as our board feature. We were also talking about doing this as an audio podcast, but it definitely seems like there's going to be a benefit from the visual aspect of this.
I think you're absolutely right. The visual aspect, if we're showing them our thoughts on, if we're doing this anyway, we might as well be showing them this. So I think it's a really good idea to have it be both a visual, a video and an audio. And from as long, cross your fingers, as long as Google plays nice and YouTube isn't completely acting up, we should be able to easily automate that process of uploading it to an unlisted event, and then downloading that thing. I think I actually have an app, an automatic like RSS feed downloader for files. That will actually auto-download new YouTube videos in a channel, so I can probably set it to do that automatically as soon as it pops up, and then it will download it into my computer. So I think there's a lot of automation we can do there.
That'll be pretty handy.
Okay. So I think one of the first things when we do any of these brainstorming games is what question are we asking, right? We need to answer some sort of question.
All right, so do you want to create a new board, or do you want to keep the SparkFarming one up?
This is an infinite board, so I think we just
put everything on one. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so we will move on over. So the question, I guess, would
So I'm going to move over to the right, or I guess I'll zoom out and see where you put your stuff. So go ahead and put, where would you like to start? Go ahead and start something.
I moved to the right of what is SparkFarming.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think of like a project within a project, because it gets really weird trying to do brain surgery on yourself.
Yep.
That's what I find interesting with this. So I'm trying to think of immediately a project, unless you wanted to go with one of yours.
You're talking about, I thought we were going to do this for SparkFarming.
Okay. So if we're doing it for SparkFarming, what we were looking at was, we could go over just the abstract format of the show, or we could, and what the segment of an episode would be.
That would make sense.
All right. So, of course, then if we go back to this area over to the right, I'll zoom back in.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm finding a two fingers on my MacBook Pro trackpad is allowing me to zoom in and out.
And I've lost my screen sharing somehow. That's interesting.
It just went black. There you are.
Yep. And
all right,
try this again. Okay.
All right, so so the show format, we would want to have an introduction explaining what it is and what any episode number is, and then from there, we were toying with that phrase of what was project therapy.
Yes.
So if we were to have the next segment be project therapy.
Now, with these sticky notes, if you just hit return, it does that.
Oh, it sizes appropriately.
It's a little bit weird. You kind of have to play with it. But if you, for instance, if
like
you just keep typing one line, that one line will try and fit as close to the top as possible. It tries to almost fit it on one line versus just wrapping throughout the whole thing. So if you want to make the text bigger, start putting line breaks in. So.
Okay.
All right, so we've got introduction, project therapy. What other ideas did we have?
We were talking about having interviews,
Yep. Get rid of that.
and then the other thing would probably be return of project therapy or follow-ups to anyone who comes in.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we could, if it ends up, um, I almost wonder if project therapy needs to be like the last thing. I'm not sure, but the I think following up with like project status and like what's on our to-do list type thing, like what's um where we're at with, if project therapy is an ongoing thing, then it doesn't maybe make as much sense, but and that's why I was thinking maybe it happens before then. um how to tact. What now? How to contact.
So small. Um,
Yeah, that's all right,
well,
it's visible.
I
There
mean,
you
that's
go.
pretty much straightforward. But well, we got the intro and outro down. So then let's look at let's outline a little bit more of what project therapy is.
Okay.
So and how did you do this size?
um
There we go.
I
So
think project therapy should start with a question.
yep. So we're gonna need. Actually, I think we're gonna. I would add one thing before that,
Yep.
and let me change. Let's call this.
I'm going to change my color here and do the
You
same.
want to? Okay. So I think we need a short exposition.
uh about what?
So,
You mean the like
person comes in. I know. I need to kind of know where they're coming from. So if I am a
does that make sense? Project overview.
yeah. I was thinking more of in a story or situation sense. So I'm I am a entrepreneur, and I am opening up a coffee shop, and you know, um, where all is this stuff coming up from?
By the way, it's 1 o'clock. How do you think we've spent the last hour of our lives?
It was pretty productive. What came
Yeah.
up on your computer that made you ask about that? Uh,
I'm using Timely on my phone to chime every hour.
Oh, I'm not familiar with Timely.
It's all right. Anyway,
Okay.
we're getting off track.
All right.
We'll
So
talk
no,
about
I
that.
just had
Put a pin in it.
all right. Day one came up and asked who is my childhood friend, and I was like, "Well, that was weird." And then your chime went off. All right. So we need to know the background of the person. So if again, I'm a person who has this type of business, and I've been doing these different types of things, because how the
Right.
person talks and how they frame themselves is really handy. So
So,
then, if I know that,
yeah.
or I mean, if we just
I'm
start
gonna
with the
put, all right. So it's a project overview. I'm gonna add its story.
yeah,
Well, what's their story?
what's their story? Because if you start with the question, and if the question is, you know, how do I sell newspapers more often, or how do I make a successful high school bake sale, or how do I start selling, car chargeable warmer coffee sleeves?
So the question needs to out of the question needs to come, what outcome do we want out
Right.
of this session?
Yeah.
Which is
Because if you
basically what the question, answering the question, assumedly. But
right. So that's where we get because the question is going to have a lot more detail. You want to get kind of the detail of the person, because there's one thing about the actual steps that need to be taken. That's great, but oftentimes the human element, the emotional element, comes into place as far as maybe this person has, tackle, has been up to bat many times, and they have not gotten where they, um, that. They're coming at it from a certain mindset or a point of view of that. Because oftentimes that component of completing a project isn't there. Or some people might be caught up in the idea, all talk and no walk with a project. So,
Right.
And then from question to outcome, we would need like, a probing section, a outline version, because I really would want, the person to have an outline of the steps.
Of what steps? Of the project?
Yeah. So if they have a problem, if through the probing we start creating some sort of, just like what we're doing now, we're actively creating something so that when we're done, we have a representation of the conversation. That's, again, why I like the ideas of using these index cards or sticky notes, because you're placing these things out, and then you can either photograph it or document it.
Right.
And then you go, oh, wow, this explains it. And trying to do this in sentence structures maybe not work.
So we have is the outline something that we're creating, or?
We're creating it. We either have like a script supervisor who's writing down notes as we are talking to the individual with the question.
Mm-hmm.
So you ever listen to that Car Talk show?
In passing, barely. Maybe.
So,
you're talking about like that's on. What is it on?
NPR?
Yeah, it's on NPR. Okay. Yeah, no,
So,
not really.
So someone either sends in an email and says, I have this problem with the car, or better, calls in. So when they call in and they have this car thing, they have some fun with finding out about where that person lives or what have you. But what they also look at is, how do we solve this problem? Imagine if someone did that and they wrote it out, and then you had, here's the steps that you need to follow. And you were getting this document that says, here's a path, here's a map.
Isn't that basically what we're doing visually here for them anyway, as it's happening?
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah. So
that's a goal. Is that a segment? Or are these just? Let me ask you this: what are we putting up here? Are we putting up the requirements of project therapy, what they're getting, or are we putting up segments? Or
this is we are very meta right now. Okay. We are mapping the process that we are going to process.
Okay, right. So it's less strict, but these are the things that we need. Yeah. So outline a map.
A document.
And that would be. I would want to share on blog.
Yep. So if you come in, we'll do the thing. I can't move when you're moving, I guess.
You can't move it. No. Go ahead and take it. No. Well, you can move. Yeah, I'm not touching anything.
I'm not touching. You touch. So, but basically...
you don't touch the button. I touch the button.
As long as you use a good touch, I'm happy with that.
All right, so we got a map. We have document and share on blog. Yep. Actually, this doesn't need to be that big. There we go.
But what I think then is, when we solve a particular problem, as we continue to solve particular problems, we might be able to make like a sheet or a tool or a list, like you were saying, how you could take something like 18 minutes, which was the book, and doing something where you create an app with it, And
we have. So in here we have probing questions, but then we would assumedly have the game. We would run some sort of.
Well, this we're creating the game right now.
Oh.
So imagine this one would be like, all right, project overview goes like this. And let's meet our first contestant. This is Bobby Ringwald. Bobby Ringwald is looking to set up his own web design company. Let's hear it for Bobby. Hey, Bobby, welcome up to the show. You have a big question. He's like, yeah, I'm trying to balance my full-time job with my web job, and I don't know how to do it. Okay, well, let's ask you a couple of questions. How many hours a week? Do you have a family? Do you do this, this, and this? Okay, cool. So you want to learn how to balance. All right, you spend so much time this. Are you tracking your time? Okay. So then we start building a tool. Let's go into the building the tool mode. All right, we've done the probing. Let's set the timer for 10 minutes. All right, so Bobby, we know your
right. So
this.
my point is that we need an actual build phase here.
All right. Well, the outline.
Or is that? I mean, this is what we get out of it.
Right. So that
this
is the build.
Final product, and then we build.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of options for.
Bobby Ringwald.
We have a lot of options here for building in terms of brainstorming games. So they put forth their question, we get more information, and during the probing phase, let me switch this to pink here. During the probing phase, I think we definitely would be start. So we have the beginnings of this starting here. Actually, I guess it's no. Actually, so the outline is happening throughout the entire thing.
Right.
So I guess we don't really have to put that there. But you're right. I think we should be, as we're talking, we should be starting putting keywords up on the screen. And essentially mapping out what they're saying. Kind of like what we were doing at the beginning of this.
Yeah, we're throwing words up and that.
Yep. And then we have those words to come back to and draw on. I think, and then we build. So this is technically building a tool. And then okay. Anything else that you think needs to be in here for the general idea of what project therapy would be?
Well, I just went to projecttherapy.com and it's a blank page.
We'll probably have we can make therapy.sparkfarming.com. We're not making another brand here.
No, I know, but someone else is squatting on it. Wicco did. So, all right. So we have everything. The main thing would be having either one of us take notes. So in the probing phase, if you're asking questions, I would be typing out those different questions and those answers on screen. And then when I switch over, I would be doing notation for you.
Sure. I mean, that can work.
And then we would have to get in practice with this. One thing I don't particularly like about this is while it's nice that they're trying to adhere to the square post-it note, as you can see in terms of the text, it doesn't play that well.
How do you mean?
Well, like some of the text looks really small, looks really big, and I think that can, and I guess you could, I'm just thinking of other dynamics of like, if we were to try to play any of the Brainstorming games with this, it might be it'd be neat to be able to load this up, like have a duplicate board or set up the board ahead of time. So
we can certainly do that. We can, and there are actually templates for things. And if I pay for this, I can get more boards. Right now, with the free account, you have 3 boards.
Oh, that's why we.
But there are templates which I will show. Let's
So like,
see if I do this. I don't know if I back out of this or... Ah, no. Okay. So, if I were to create a new board, it comes up with this screen. Oh, it doesn't have a template. I'm not sure. There's a place where I can get templates, and some of the templates are like, they're very much the types of things that you would think of with, diagrams, dividing up things, big circles, like we can create different types of things. So we might want to invest in the, we might have to see, before we spend money on this, I want to make sure that this is the tool that we want, but we can create, some boards, and we might be able to even use the whole duplicate, if we can duplicate boards, then we can make a templating system for certain types of processes.
when you get the Pro account, apparently you can export out the board. I don't know what format, but
Even with this, you can, I can save as a PDF, I can save an image, and I
where?
can, it's on, there's a share button in the top. You may not,
Oh, I
if you
see
don't,
share now.
yeah. If you do have it, then great. If you don't have
Okay.
it, whatever,
'Cause there's another button to the right there.
what's the button to the right?
Save it. On board, and then there's a square of a person to the right of that is
Oh,
share
right,
your
yeah,
screen with other
share your
participants.
screen with other participants. So that's different. That would be so that you see what I'm looking at on the board.
Oh, okay. So now I'm looking over here. Okay. Save to Google Drive, copy board link, embed into a website. Okay.
Okay, I guess I just click off. All right. And as far as size, I've sort of, I don't know, the different sizes of things don't bother me as much, and you can always change the size of the sticky if you want to match size of fonts a little bit. I think we'll have to see on the video what
Reads well.
right what works well and how much we have to zoom in on stuff. But I can zoom in pretty darn far and look at, that. And I can read every single one of those, even on the video that's pretty much not very large on my screen.
Yeah.
And plus people can full screen this, watch it on a computer. This is really, this is the type of show that I would imagine people are going to watch on the computer. So one of the things that I think we might want to talk about is, and maybe we can do this in episode 0.2, unless you want to keep going. It is 1:15. I am pretty satisfied with this as a test, and we've gotten some ideas down on paper. I think the stuff that I'd like to see us work on is...
Let's go back to us.
Huh?
Let's go
Yeah.
back to our.
Well, I'm writing down on the...
Okay.
I'd like to see us work on audience, guests, anything else you think we need to define?
As far as
I'm just like, when I say define, all right, defining audience, we should definitely have an idea of who our audience is and who we're reaching out to. And I think we have a loose idea, but I think it would be good to get up characteristics of...
That's where an affinity map would be a good thing to do in here.
Okay.
And what we can do is put a drawing in the back. I don't know if you can lock an image in the back, or just make sure everything else goes on top of it.
Well, you can put it to the back. I'm not sure about well, let me see if I can. If I right-click on this, you can lock. Yep.
Okay.
And you can duplicate item. Yeah, you've got full basic control.
All right. So then what we would want to do is look up at that bit in the Brainstorming book, and then come up with a list of the different people or the different worldviews we think the show might get to.
Yeah.
And
I want to do the same thing for guests.
And the same thing for the types of guests. Not specific names, but necessarily people that the people in the audience may be looking at.
Right. What are the qualities of the guests that we want to talk to? So,
and I don't know if we want to list names while we're recording, but I don't think that's a problem.
No, I mean we could. I don't think there's a problem with. Oh, that was weird. It the because my video channel, you know how it mirrors yourself when you're looking at yourself.
Okay.
When I turned off the screen sharing, it flipped to mirroring the screen sharing really quick before it before it switched to my video, so it was a little confusing. I was like, why am I suddenly dyslexic? All right, so I think that was a pretty decent test. It's a little rough, obviously, but and we've got some things to work out. But as far as an episode 0, we're going to keep developing the show, and we'll get an actual episode 1 once we've gone through these episodes of development for the show. But I think it's really important that we show our work and that we're putting out there even the development of the podcast itself.
Yes.
So,
You're seeing
at some
all
point,
the sawdust.
yeah. So on that note, you can follow the progress of the development of this podcast at SparkFarming.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at Copperdome, Copperdome. So it's just like it sounds. And Topher?
You can follow me on the Twitter at Topher Polak, TOPHERPOLACK.
And maybe we can. I guess we don't really need. I guess we don't really need the lower thirds, but we can put lower thirds on. And
I was
like
thinking. Well, we should end the show, and I'll talk more about it.
Yeah. All right. So thank you for checking out the Spark Farming episode 0 and
A New Hope.
Yeah. If there is any hope for us, I don't know.
We'll find out. Find out with us. Bye.
No.